what does Derek Carr's hand injury mean for the Saints in their 14-11 win against the New York Giants?
Yeah, so first of all, I've been told that the fear is that he suffered a fracture in that hand, and obviously that's a concerning injury, especially at this point in the season. There's only 4 weeks to go. Quarterback needs both hands. It's the offhand, so maybe there's a way to find a way. But from what I'm gathering right now, and again, they have to do more tests. They have to figure out what's going on. But from what I've heard initially, is that there is some, feeling that maybe he's not going to be able to play beginning next week against the Commanders, and my expectation then would be that Jake Haener would be the starting quarterback for the Saints at that point. So, I think it means a lot. I think it kind of kills their hopes of, if he's out, it's unreasonable, but internally they still believe they can be a playoff team. I think it would kill their hopes of being able to make the playoffs. I just don't think. I don't think that it's a positive development if your eye is still on having week to week success against these teams, and seeing Darren Rizzi go on this run and all that stuff. I think taking Carr out of that would kill it.
Quick question, Nick: is that your reporting that your anticipation that it's going to be Haener, or just gut instinct because of the Rattler experiment falling short earlier this year?
My anticipation as of this moment, is that it would be Jake Haener.
Yeah, but
my anticipation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was curious if you were making an educated guess or not, because this team's so hard to predict. I also think it would be Haener, but I always we hadn't talked about it before we went on the air, so I was curious if you'd heard anything yet. It's such an interesting thing that they went with Rattler last time, then they went back to Haener as the backup quarterback. I think it's Haener's turn in the rotation. Rattler kind of fizzled, so I think whether they've made that decision or not, I think Haener gets a chance to they need to see, is he going to struggle just as much as Rattler did, or does he have more than he does or not? But either way, Rattler or Haener, I would not predict the Saints to beat the Commanders. I would not predict the Saints to go into Green Bay and beat the Packers.
No.
And if this team falls to 5-10, we certainly are not talking about any mathematical playoff hopes at that point. So, this was a hideous win today, and I don't know that we could have come on here and talked with any optimism anyway. But if they still had Derek Carr, and they were able to go and beat the Commanders, we would be talking about a team that's still in playoff contention. Taking Derek Carr out of the equation, combined with kind of how ugly this game was before they won it, really makes that seem like a foolhardy conversation right now.
I mean, look, if you still have Derek Carr next week, I don't think you can beat the Commanders, because the way you were playing today, when he was in there, it wasn't good. It wasn't like, oh, well, they're handedly beating the Giants. You're struggling to get 14 points. So I don't think it was a guaranteed thing that they were beating the Washington Commanders next week, even though it's a home game. But I don't know, like even the Marshawn revenge game, like it wasn't, I don't think it was even happening next week. By the way, that they were showing today that they are playing in that low realm of, you had a fully healthy offensive line and you still weren't able to get things all the way going. Now, I understand rust and trying to get things going in
that wasn't
places.
Rust. That was gross.
Exactly. Well, you said it. Yuck.
That was
gross.
Full-on corrosion.
Those are words that you use throughout analyzing the game. Yuck, gross, all that kind of stuff, because that's what it was. Like, I understand you're missing Taysom Hill now, but you've done that already. So I feel like today's game didn't show emphatically that, if Derek Carr plays, then they're going to beat Washington.
No,
I still don't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, so just to kind of go back to that, though, my anticipation is that it would be Jake Haener. Now, like, my gut feeling, if you're asking me what my gut feeling was, I would probably say Jake Haener too, just because you're talking about people now at this point. This, again, and I've made this point on other things, this isn't a staff that is trying to look at the future at all. They're trying to figure out how they're going to win a game right now, and I think they probably feel like Jake Haener is a little bit of a better option to do it. I don't like either one. I don't like either one of them if you have to go out there and beat the Commanders or Packers. I don't like Carr with a broken hand if you got to beat the Commanders or Packers. If there's a way to roll him out there and throw enough tape on that thing and shoot it up or whatever you got to do to get him out there, especially. I don't know if you could even do that in Green Bay. Like, it feels like you're asking for a fumble to happen. It just kind of feels it kind of feels like it's cooked a little bit right now in terms of what you're doing going forward. And that stinks because right now Rizzy is 3-1. You should feel okay about this game in some respect. You grinded out an ugly win. Those happen in a season. You don't feel good about it. You barely beat the Giants, who were barely, not even barely. I think they're openly kind of not making their best effort to win games. You don't cut your starting quarterback and go to Drew Lock if you're making your best effort, just to win games at the priority of winning those games. So they're beyond that. You barely beat them. But there are games every year where people fall into a trap, and it's better to have an ugly win instead of falling into the trap. But there's nothing really to take from it. I mean, that's just a pale on the whole thing. And, let's talk about how it happened. I mean, like, I'm sorry, and I know he got hurt, and I don't want to come off as crude or insensitive or anything at all like that, but that was not a smart play. Like, that was crazy. I don't, like, credit to him for being a warrior going for it or whatever, but, like, that was not a well-calculated moment, in my opinion.
No, I mean, you admire the spirit behind it, and Carr has been talking all year about how he wants to be more of a running quarterback, and Taysom went down, and he wants to lift some of that mantle and take it up himself. So maybe you even admire the run. I mean, it felt like we didn't even ask in the wake of the game if it was a designed run. It felt like it was a designed run for him. I don't know if he had an option to hand it to Alvin or run based on what he saw. So the running itself was a little dangerous, but the leap obviously was too much. Go ahead and live to fight another down on that one. That's how Jaden Daniels should play next week when he comes into town with Washington. Get out of bounds instead of fighting for those extra 3 yards. But yeah, you admire what was behind it, but you've got to draw the line between going up in the air and putting the rest of your season at risk, which is obviously exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you just step out of bounds. Like, just step out of bounds real quick and live to fight another down, like you said. I mean, that's just not that's not what you can do. You can't risk it. You're too important to the team. Their odds of winning games are significantly altered, no matter what. But especially if he's not playing. If he's not playing,
yeah.
It's over.
We've seen it this year.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing. They're never going to tank. They will never, ever tank. And that's fine. And that's great. But guess what? Like, if this guy's out, the decision to tank is basically taken out of your hands. So it's just going to happen. Like, you're going to try your hardest and you're going to lose. So maybe, if he misses time, I mean, it's the draft watch is on at that point. I mean, I don't think you can do enough to make the playoffs. And at that point, like, I don't know. Like, I know you don't make decisions to rush people back if he's not on the field. I mean, again, I don't think you're ever outwardly tanking, but at some point you have to start making somebody somewhere has to make some decisions for the longevity of this team. I mean, at a certain point, when you have everyone you can't pull off or whatever, but like, if you brought back, let's just say, for instance, like Chris Olave when Derek Carr's not out there, that's crazy. I mean, at this point, anyone that's hurt, like somebody above the coaching staff, if this is the reality and, you go out there and you drop the next 2 games or whatever, at some point, somebody has to say, all right, like, this is about the long-term health of the franchise. This is over. Let's just back off it a little bit. You don't have to do anything outwardly obvious. You don't have to do anything that even necessarily the players see, but look, you already put a healthy guy on IR this season. Like, you can do little things that aren't necessarily insane and call it roster management.
They're not going to do that right now, but they're 2 losses, 1 loss, 2 loss, whatever, away from even being mathematically eliminated. So I would hope maybe they would do something different for the last couple weeks. And maybe that would lead to seeing all these draft picks that keep being inactive every week. Maybe it'll lead to seeing Haener get the full rest of the slate, or Rattler getting back in there for the last 2 games or something. I would hope once they're mathematically eliminated that changes, but maybe even then it doesn't. But without question, they're going to go into next week's game trying to win. And I even think there is a world where we could be sitting here in these seats right now saying, even if we only partly believed it, well, now that the offensive line is healthy, maybe the Saints could game plan around their run game and not ask Haener to do too much. We can't have that conversation today.
Cannot.
Because they, that was the most disappointing aspect of the game today. So I don't feel like they can go and build a game plan around this offensive line and this run game next week, and ask Haener to not have to do much.
Yeah, we'll get in more of the run game stuff a little bit later in the show. But just to wrap up a loose end from this week, when Kubiak and Rizzy were talking about, oh, yeah, players been coming up and saying, I can fill in this Taysom role. I can do this. I can do that. If it was Derek Carr, you should have
It was. I know it was.
You should have said
I know it was Derek Carr when they were saying that. People have been coming up and campaigning for it. My first thought was, I bet Derek Carr has been campaigning for it.
Dude, it was a crazy play. Like, why is he doing that? I don't like. I understand it's like an ultimate winner play, but like you gotta
can't be.
It's like he was like yelling out Taysom as he did it though. Like no, like don't do that, Like you don't. I respect it. I respect the competitiveness, but it's just like no, man. Like you are the guy that cannot be doing this. Like you have to live to fight another down. Like. It can't be Valdez-Scantling, Cedric Wilson, Dante Pettis, Kevin Austin Jr. in a backup quarterback. Yeah. Like it just cannot be that, and that's what it is now. As far as like game planning around them or whatever, like no, I don't see. I won't be having that conversation until it's shown to me. I don't think they can win a game without the starting quarterback.
No, but when Brandon said that, when Rizzy was saying that, or Kubiak was saying that players have been campaigning, I was actually thinking, I guarantee you Derek Carr has been campaigning for it. But the irony of having this discussion, obviously he's the quarterback and he's not as athletic as leaping in the air or whatever he thought was going to happen on that play. But I mean, the irony of their season ended on Mark Ingram taking a step out of bounds 1 yard too early and them not being able to convert it 2 years ago. He was trying to fight for that extra yard. I actually thought he got it. I was rewinding, looking at the injury, the hand and everything. I never even checked the spot of the ball. They almost lost the game because of the spot of the ball. Maybe they should have freaking challenged it.